is Paul. Yeah, I was reading your credit and personal loans in You and the Law. Yes. hmm And it happens when I turn this phone on and the first time I make a recording. Yes. There's a number, and this morning's number was 17611. But yesterday the number was 20,000 and three other digits. Yeah. Now, I've really thought about why it is that when I first turn the phone on, yes, and make that first kind of a test recording that nobody sees, yeah, it should be in chronological order, as if the phone itself was recording the number of minutes of using the video cam or possibly some sort of tagging system for the SD card or the memory. Yeah. Could you get me the cell phones of those that I'm suing? Poop. I'm concerned. Okay. That somebody might have changed my phone or changed the SD card that I had purchased at Walmart. Yeah. And as often as I've had difficulties with those that are so smart, if the number doesn't increase, let's say it was 20,000 seconds, okay, it doesn't make a lot of sense. No. No. But there is a number that when I first make a recording, the recording that I delete every time that I start making recordings, yes, I don't see it again for the rest of the recordings. No. And it gets me thinking, yes, why is today's number less than yesterday's number? Now, it could be, okay, when looking at the actual webcams of those that I'm going to sue. Yeah. I'd just like to know, have you been using your individual phones to make videos or take pictures, or is there some sort of memory SD card in your individual phones? This last week, for some reason, my SD card disappeared, and there was a thought that the Queen of England was upsetting me in one of her mothers. Yes, because I looked everywhere for it. Had actually seen it, yes, and taken it. That happened to be sitting next to me in the library. Now, if I found out that somebody did steal, as in committed a theft, yes, as small as it might be, it was just a 4 gigabyte SD card, yes. I don't think you can even buy 4 gigabyte SD cards at stores anymore. I mean, they're almost obsolete. I would file a police report right now, and I'd have the individual arrested for theft. Now, I did mention it to the librarian on my way out that day. Yeah, that it was magically disappeared. Pooh. But there was a girl sitting on one side, and there was this old biddy sitting on the other. And I asked her to lift her feet, the young girl. And she did, and it wasn't there. But I somehow thought that somebody did know and might have taken it, and that's why I couldn't find it. Because I've been the target of a show for the last 8 years. Yes. Where if you could just steal all my personal possessions, right? One of my relatives would pay you for that. It's kind of like when I was burglarized and I documented that and I emailed it to the police department. And for some reason, nobody contacted me. Now, when you think about email and documenting crime, yes, for every time I have documented a crime in an email or a video, yes, and I emailed the Port Angeles Police Department, yeah, and the Squim Police Department, yes, and the Spokane Police Department, right, and the Seattle Police Department, yes. This issue of having knowledge of crime and then the jurisdiction of enforcing the laws. I think you're obligated to enforce the law whenever you, as a police department, have knowledge of a crime. Now, I've heard this ideology, yes, this concept, the thought that, well, we don't have to enforce the laws, even though we have badges on. Yes, we have guns, yeah, and we use malicious abuse of process, right? Malicious harassment. malicious prosecution, yes. And then we refuse to enforce hate crime laws. Now, if I think about all the emails and videos where I've documented crime after crime after crime after crime, and you completely ignore my rights because you think that you do not have to enforce the laws. My thought was you did, regardless of where you're at in the nation or even in the world. In fact, thinking of the Queen, could you get me Interpol, that European law enforcement agency of the European Union or the member nations of European, European, yeah. Now, for every individual, yes, in the Interpol, yes, for the last 40 years, poop. I emailed you, yes, and then I emailed the South American poll, yes. And then there are these international law enforcement agencies of other nations that are personally. Did somebody mess with my phone, or did you change the SD card that I just recently purchased? Was there some old lady that had gotten paid to steal my SD card? Oh, and is there the possibility that for every item that I've owned for the last 8 years, one of my relatives said, "Well, I will pay you if you take it from him." Now, this idea of stealing the personal items of citizens, I'm going to want to know what you know. I'm going to want my rights enforced today. And then I'm going to want to have arrested any individual that ever got paid anything, yes, to torture me, yes, to destroy my personal items, my netbook, poop, or got paid to cause me pain and suffering today. Could you get me the SD cards and the actual number on the cell phones? Yes, of uh, of whatever the memory is that's calculating how many minutes, or is it six?